everyone. It's Emma Widmar from the Racine County Eye, and I have my boss here with us today. This is Denise Lockwood, the owner of the Racine County Eye. Today, we're going to be talking about Afib, and Denise is going to be sharing her story with us about living with Afib. So, Denise, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us about your diagnosis with Afib?
Yeah, thanks. So I was diagnosed back almost in 2019. It would have been September of 2019. It was a beautiful fall day. I had all sorts of things planned, and I was going to work on like cleaning up the things from the summer from the garden. And I woke up and I just felt kind of funny. And it's really hard thing to describe. I felt like I had just like this pressure on my chest. Like I slept on it wrong, right in through here. And I'm like, oh, that's not a feeling I had before. But I think the symptoms that day were completely different than what I experienced like 4 to 5 months earlier. So you kind of have to start 4 to 5 months earlier. It was probably the beginning of summer. And I was really having a hard time walking up and down stairs. I couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without huffing and puffing. I oftentimes would, and there was I think the biggest thing was there was a big story I told myself for many months that was just my asthma, that I had allergies. And that is true because I grew up on a farm and my nickname is Wheeze. Little trivia on Denise there. I'm allergic to hay, mold, straw, dust, all of the things you find on a farm. So I'm pretty used to these symptoms. And so that summer though was different. And it was different in that I couldn't catch my breath. It was different in like I would have a lot of fluid building up around my ankles. Like I literally had shoes that I couldn't wear because my feet were so swollen, and I could put my finger indented into my ankles, and that had never happened before. So and my husband kept telling me for months, go get that checked out. And I was really working hard. I was running the business. I didn't have an Emma then. I don't think you were with me yet.
No.
I was very small and trying to do all of the things to run a news website. And I was probably working, sometimes it wouldn't be till like 9 or 10 at night. I'd get up at 6 in the morning because I'm a farm girl, and I'm like, gotta make the hay.
Right. This was the last thing on your mind.
Yeah. I'm like, just keep working, because you grow up and you're like, oh, that's happening, rub some dirt in it, it's fine. So there's this big story that I told myself, oh no, I'll get to it. And
it got
was,
to you.
pardon?
And it got to you.
It did. It kind of made time for me.
Yeah.
And it was really scary because that morning, and then so that morning I woke up and I just had this big pain, and it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack kind of pain.
Right.
It was just like sore. Like I had worked out and things were talking to me, but it didn't go away, And that afternoon I laid down as my husband was out helping his brother with leaves and things, and Larry had come home to watch the football game, and he looked at me, and it just got so bad. And he looked at me and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I gave him that,
you know what I'm saying? I'm not okay.
that I'm not okay look. And he's like, it must have been a really scary look, because he said to me, do we need to go? because I kept grabbing my chest and I'm like, yeah, we need
Yeah.
to go.
But you think, for those that don't know what AFib is, do you think that the signs of AFib, I know you were talking about not being able to breathe and you're having difficulty, do you think those signs were there all along and they were just
Oh
signs?
yeah.
They were
Oh
there.
yeah. Now, knowing what I know now, they were totally there. Lara and I talk a lot about this because he's had to work on me a lot. Primarily, in fact, there's a magnet that we keep on my door on the refrigerator. And it's the symptoms of a stroke.
Okay.
Because when you have AFib, and to kind of give a little bit of a perspective, when they hooked me up to the EKG, a normal sinus rhythm is that classic bump, 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 bump.
Mm-hmm.
Mine went bump, brrr. So it's a rhythm problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's kind of like your heart's like they told me that the valve that this had impacted was the most important valve. It's called the widowmaker. And if it goes badly,
Mm.
you die.
Yeah.
And I told my husband that if I would have waited 24 hours more, I would have been dead.
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine hearing that news or being Larry and hearing that news. Did you even know what AFib, I know that's what we call it for short. Was that even a word in your vocabulary before this? No. But it's
No.
something that impacts so many people. Before
Yeah.
we hopped on this call, we were talking about that. Um, is this something that you people are affected by it? Why
Yeah.
is that? Why was it you, or what were things in your life that were leading to it?
Well, I've done a lot of soul searching, on this. This is one of the reasons why I think talking about it is so important because the things that contributed to my AFib, and there are a couple of different versions of it. Mine was a flutter, which is the flutter part of it. It's kind of as advertised, my husband would say. He's a hilarious fellow. One of the things that contributed was my uncontrolled high blood pressure.
Mhm.
I was working a lot of hours. My stress level was through the roof. And then there was one more thing that they told me, and that was my sleep apnea. And my
Mm.
sleep apnea, I knew I had sleep apnea, and this was this really hard kind of what I affectionately call the come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
Um, was I wasn't wearing my mask.
Mm.
My AFib or the sleep apnea had really created this because when you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, your organs start shutting down, right?
Yeah.
So your potassium goes low, I'm anemic, I've got like the whole cacophony of things. I also have diabetes and all sorts of other things that I probably should not be a poster child of, but
So
um, it
they,
complicates things.
yeah. And it seems
Yeah.
as if people who have this, it's not like you just get one diagnosis. It's like a potato chip bag, you keep getting things, you keep pulling out those chips, you keep getting,
Yeah.
more and more. If someone's listening to this, how do they find out if they're saying, oh my gosh, Denise said she, was walking up the stairs and having this trouble breathing, having these trouble with cholesterol and, diabetes. What do they do? Like, where do you turn to? Maybe it's not that dire moment of, I feel like I'm having a heart attack, or, it's the accumulation of symptoms. Where do people turn? What do they do?
Well, I think it's really important. One of the other things that I'm really a big advocate for is you got to show up and participate in your own health. And I think one of the things that really, for me, stopped me in my tracks was when I started covering COVID. So all of this happened right before COVID happened, right? So that happened in September. February, March comes around. We start hearing about this thing called COVID-19. And I start doing the things that I do, which is nerd out and find out as much as I can. And so I'm literally writing these stories and I'm talking to the health experts, and they're like, people who are at high risk are people who have sleep apnea and are obese and have heart issues
Oh,
and who
yeah.
have kidney problems. And I'm like, crap,
You're like,
that's
this is me.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. So that really was a big slap you in the face moment.
Hmm.
So like kind of like let's kind of circle back just a second, because there are a lot of tests. Was not a slap you in the face kind of situation.
Hmm.
It took many tests and many days to kind of sort out what was going on with me. I am really lucky because my husband's mom is a cardiac nurse.
Mm.
Like in that family, they go into instant advocacy mode. So like she is seriously in the ER with me, reading my EKG. She's like, nope, we're paying attention to that. We're paying attention to that. And these are like little baby bumps,
Yes,
right? And I'm
you
just
know
like,
it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
They're doing all of these tests on me, but I can tell you there was so much fluid that was impacting my breathing. The reason why my breathing was so impacted was because my circulation in my body was severely impacted because my heart wasn't in rhythm with itself, right?
Right.
So to give you a perspective of how much, and sudden weight gain is also a big sign. So like I must have gained, and I had been trying to lose so much weight. Like I had been trying so hard and I was so frustrated. And the reason why I couldn't lose weight was because of this. So
Mm.
what I found out was I had so much fluid that had built up in my body,
Wow.
that I was in the hospital for like 7, 8 days.
Oh my
I
God.
had lost 14 pounds of fluid
Wow. And all
because of the
from
meds they started giving me. They gave me a diuretic. And so to take that pressure off of my heart, and I literally walked out of that hospital with 14 pounds less of water weight.
wow, all because of this treatment that you got and knowing what you had. You were no
Yeah,
longer walking around with the unknown. You
right.
finally put a name to the face of the symptoms, which like you were mentioning, for you it was this leading up. It wasn't just like a one day thing. It was the heavy breathing, the weight gain, the swelling, the edema. What are other things that people can experience? Because not everyone's a textbook, they don't open up to page AFib and they're not going to look just like it. So what might other people experience?
Well, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's establish that. So
Yeah.
uh, I think there's a lot of it is related to the breathing, the pressure. Um, but you'll have to take a look at that list because I'm not going to try to pretend that I know everything about AFib. I'm just telling you my experience.
Yeah.
But those are some of the things that it was the sleep apnea. And what they do know is that sleep apnea and that uncontrolled high blood pressure combination of stress, the weight gain, the edema, all of those things are very classic AFib kind of things. So that's what I had.
Yeah. That was your story. But
Yeah.
things are different now, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. So
tell us
to
about
kind
your
of put things,
successes.
yeah. So when I walked into the hospital on that day in September, my heart was only working at 30%. Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was no bueno. Um, so now my heart is working at almost 60%, which is really good.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I used I used my CPAP. I did my meds. Went on a blood thinner. I'm on, like, I came home with, and this was so depressing to me at first because it was so overwhelming. I had a cardiologist and a pulmonologist and electrophysiologist and blah, blah, blah. And it was like all of this stuff and this grocery bag of stuff that I had to, like, it was so in your face, like overwhelming to me. But I just got into a better habit of doing the thing. That's what Blair and I call it. Do the thing, Denise, do the thing. Right.
Mhm.
So it was making sure that I was, drinking more water, a lot less alcohol. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like my beer, but I don't drink nearly as much as I used to. I started really watching like my salt. I just started engaging around this headspace that I have a lot more to live for. I have a granddaughter
Yeah.
who I get to have at my house a couple of days a week, which is awesome. I have the website, and there's a lot of really good ass kicking journalism that all of us want to do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can do those things now, you've had success with weight loss too,
Yep,
which
I've lost 56 pounds.
wow, which is really something to be proud of because it's really
Yeah.
difficult for people with AFib, like you were mentioning, and just weight loss in general can be a challenge for a
Yeah.
lot of people. Um, and you have your granddaughter now what does it feel like, to be obviously you're living with this and that I'm sure has its, physical and mental battle still every day, but what does it feel like to know like, okay, I didn't become a statistic. I didn't get to the point of having a stroke or, a heart attack. I didn't get to that point. What does that feel like to you?
I can tell you exactly how it feels because I'm a big, and I'm going to tell you a little insider Denise thing. So I am super into roller coasters. I grew up in Ohio, not far from Geauga Lake and SeaWorld and Cedar Point. So I grew up around roller coasters, right? And so my husband, if I let him, we would go to Disney every single day. But for like the last few years, I wasn't able to go on roller coasters because my heart, my all of that was really impaired. And so I did a lot of work to deal with that, confront that, and meet myself where I am.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
important.
You know, it was a really long road. It's still a road that I'm on. There are times where I'm just like, "Whew,
Yeah.
we're just gonna push pause on the thing for right now." But we just got back from Disney, and my doctor told me I could go on roller coasters. I know, it was so freaking awesome.
Just to be able to like do something you want to do and not have this
Yeah.
that must be the best because I'm sure, when you think back to that ER room and they're telling you all these medical terms and you're a deer in the headlights, I'm sure at that point, wondering what's going on, must feel good to like think back to that moment and know how different things are on the positive side now,
Yeah.
you're still running your news website. You can, roll around with Ember and, do all the things that you want to do. What would you tell someone who maybe they know they have AFib, maybe they don't know they have it, but they're like, whoa, listen to your story. They're thinking, maybe this is something I have. What would you tell that person? Um, any anything. What would you tell them?
Don't ignore the symptoms.
Mhm.
It is, and I think the biggest thing is um, stop telling yourself the story that you're
Mhm.
going to go get that checked out. Just go do it. Um, take responsibility and take charge of your health because it's really important. It is the only currency that you have. And when you one of the things that I can tell you is being a journalist, and you know this, I'm sure, is that you take in all of those stories, right?
Mm.
And you take them in and they live in your heart. That is one thing that it doesn't let you, those stories never leave you. And
Right.
so I have to balance that, right? So I am no good to anybody, not as your boss or not as somebody who's a part of this community who really loves this town a lot. You know, when you look at who lives in Racine County, the number one cause of death is heart issues.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ignore it. Don't ignore your health. Don't ignore the reality of where your body tells you the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Right.
need to listen to that.
Right. And we're also good at, like you said, I'll get to it later. We'll do it next time.
Oh,
Come up with every excuse in the book. We all do it. Everyone does it. It's so easy to do it than to face the reality because it's scary sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes dealing with that mental health aspect of it too, people struggle with, I'm sure. It's a lot to pile on living with, I'm sure, AFib, and especially for people of color too. You talked about being in Racine, and we're a community of diverse populations.
yeah,
I do want to mention, though, to anyone who might be watching this, the Racine County Eye really does work to put out resources. There are places and resources that we have in directories on our website to get connected with, whether that's the city health department or the county health department, to get your health in order. So if you don't know where to turn, we have those resources for you. And Denise is proof of what can happen when you rely on those resources.